individuals use it in order to create social awareness and change. That seems like something that if we pick the right text for them to read, they should be able to be pretty excited about writing about that. So maybe that could be, like, we could have them do some sort of project that maybe even they,
You know, think back to what Tamara was saying.
Well, Tamara and I went to that project-based learning PD, and they gave us they showed us an example of like a project menu with all these different projects, and so we were just talking at that PD about doing kind of a culminating project about either something about genocides, or, because if we were gonna have some students reading Night and some reading Forgotten Fire, can we incorporate something so they don't just talk about, okay, the Holocaust, and a lot of them have a general knowledge of that, but maybe take a step back, look at some other aspect of either, because a lot of them have no idea about the Armenian genocide, a lot of them, or there's probably other aspects, and use Night or whatever novel they read, tie it into that, and maybe some other research, even if it's things that we provide, tie it all together.
Is one of you taken?
that's me.
Do you have the test for?
I do have the test for Tamara, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've walked back and forth.
So sorry.
Now, is this for all day?
Is this
They're gonna write on the,
Oh,
they
is
should
it-
write on
is
their
the
own piece of
cameras
paper.
here?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you.
No, the camera's right here. There's, yeah, I see.
Okay,
Anyway, so that's kind of what we were, just the ideas we were bouncing around, and give them something, so they would have to write something, but also do some sort of project-based thing where they incorporate some of that research in a different way. They had a neat project menu that I could find somewhere, but it was just a lot of different ideas that I think we could tweak to make fit that perfect.
And maybe the project could be like a personal, you know, like I was saying, like when you look at how you get from just like prejudice and discrimination to genocide,
oh yeah.
right? Then their project could tie back to like, okay, at these lower levels, like that we actually experience, then what's something that we could do? Like how could you use the written word,
yeah.
right, to create awareness and then do some sort of display?
Oh yeah, which is the
Yeah.
essential question.
Mhm.
Right.
So then maybe it could even be like, building awareness on things that teenagers can
Right,
handle,
things that they
right?
see in their
Teenagers
high
can't
school,
really
things.
handle genocide.
No,
But we
yeah.
could like pinpoint when this happens,
Right.
if it perpetuated,
Right,
it
so
would lead
instead
to
of
la
making
la la.
a history project, make
Okay.
it some sort of
So then what about,
social change.
remember when you brought up that idea about the annotated bibliography?
Mhm.
What if we use like the 10 articles or whatever we're gonna read and have them actually do the annotated bibliography, and then switched it to, at the end, now take what you know and do that project? Does that sound cool?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's.
So the annotated bibliography could be an objective summary that includes quotes and paraphrase with a citation at the bottom of each source. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm comfortable even giving like, maybe not how we write it, but like author at the top. Do you know what I'm talking about? So like author, published by, or da-da-da, this date,
Yeah.
you know, everything you need for a citation.
Yeah.
And then they can get out a source manual or whatever, however we're gonna do it. And
Right.
okay, so like, where do we put that on here? I think it's actually
Step 4,
Four, yeah.
acceptable evidence.
okay, so,
So I think we can get rid of this one.
yeah, Mike, I don't know what, I can't even remember what that even was.
Yeah.
So annotated bibliography, will you describe it more? I'm gonna jump down to the,
So I would say annotated bibliography then, right, is going to.
yeah. For the project, the essence of it will be identifying,
I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Identifying, well, or maybe just,
The ways in which hate affects our community?
yeah,
And-
at a
and
Because then
level.
you could be
Their-
family, you
yeah.
could be city, you could be school,
Uh-huh.
whatever the community is defined.
that affects our students,
Uh-huh.
not just something you heard about somewhere.
Because we could even take that and build it, so maybe it could be more of an explanatory text talking about just the pervasiveness of the issue, right? Like just who is affected by it and what's happening. And then we could launch into third quarter, a solution type
Right,
paper.
right.
Cause they will have analyzed the problem so well, hopefully, right?
Right, I think so, because I think for a lot of these students, asking them to research, think about it, analyze it, and then solve it is going to be a big jump.
Right.
That.
Well, cause they'll need to do some research to come up with
Mhm. Right,
solutions.
right, but if
Maybe.
we build, I hope,
Uh-huh.
if they've got the solution
What are
sitting in their
people
pocket.
What have you been doing all this time?
But I think that if we have them analyze it, really understand the problem, use kind of resources that we give them, next quarter they can take research a step further, do some research, build an argument or a solution. And then I think we've built a nice, big idea.
And you guys had also talked about using Ethos Pathos logos, or at least like introducing them to that, so I think that really ties in nicely to both quarters.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes me think too, like with the annotated bibliography, an element of that, right, should be the part where they analyze the particular point of view. Or the author's purpose, and that ends up being their claim, so when they pull the quotes, right, so they're gonna do an objective summary and then they're gonna pull some key pieces, and then their follow-up is always gonna be, how did that quote
Right.
support the author's claim? So instead of having to do it for their own claim, they're just explaining, like pulling quotes to explain the key point and then tying it back to the authors.
So for skills, I'm gonna add in like rhetoric in its basic sense.
Right,
Of like,
right,
what is
very,
it?
very basic.
And could you color it green in a paper?
Right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, I think so.
So, identify the, you got it,
Yeah, I'll do that.
okay. We didn't write down where these skills came from, so now we gotta find them. So this part about use precise language and domain-specific vocabulary, I think we could include that as a skill. There are many problems. Which problems are there? Like something like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of, I guess, what are the expectations for this project as far as what kind of, I mean, we talk about that they're going to learn about and understand the problem.
Mm-hmm.
How are we gonna turn that into a project? Just an explanatory project-based thing, is that what we're looking for, basically?
Yeah.
An awareness raiser
Yeah,
to start
okay.
with, right?
Yeah.
And it's gonna need to be something, right? Like you could do a video, you could do whatever, right? But it's gonna have to be something that actually raises social awareness, right?
As opposed to,
I turned it into you and no one else is ever gonna see this. It needs to be designed,
like it has to
needs to
be
be
a presentation.
I think so,
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that,
something
Yeah.
that you
I
can
would
show.
like, I'd
and-
love to have my students create
Yeah,
something
and maybe we could
that-
even request like some wall space
Mhm.
from
cause when you go upstairs and they do the, you know, like, we're studying heart disease, here's the stuff about heart disease, right? Like, that kind of thing, only for a problem that they're seeing in the community, or
Yeah.
prejudice, or whatever.
And
It's not a rant,
because-
but is informational, right?
And because we'll be publishing it, or they'll be publishing it, potentially they'll take it more seriously.
Take a little
So I'm thinking
more
about, like,
ownership
think
of it
about
when
that.
it's going to be.
The LGBT bullying poster that we got from the club, like, something like that would be like a good final product that
Yeah,
has,
I've
like,
definitely noticed that my kids, like, on the Where I'm From poems, I had them do it on colored paper, I had them make it into something, and they took it so much
Oh,
more
man.
seriously than if
Yeah.
I just had them write it down on a sheet of paper.
Which kudos to you, Tatum, because my 10th graders ate it up.
and mine
Never in
seemed
my
so
life.
reluctant, and wow, I got some amazing, and then I would like hand a couple of them to somebody who's struggling, like, here's what I'm looking for, here's an A, and they're just like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is so great. It was,
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I have mine, I wanna put them into.
Out of all of the descriptive language things I did, that was the most effective, that's the one I'd keep
I
for
think it's
next year.
because it allowed them to be abstract. Like, I was like, no one has to get it but you.
Right.
Like,
Right,
and because you get it so well, it will come to life for other people.
right,
I was shocked.
yeah. My explanation is so tirade format there, it's the only way I could really make it quick.
It's okay.
Bullet points that turned into not really a bullet point. And I found, what did I find last night? Something in my email that was like, oh, this is a great, first book.
So do we have enough standards in regards to reading night? Like, do we repeat the skills for reading literature? Like,
Yes.
or do we leave them out because
But do we-
that's not an assessed thing?
Right, that's what's tough, right? We don't wanna let those skills slide, but do we put them on the backwards plan? Or is that something that now, okay, like, we're not teaching it, we're giving you opportunities to practice it, but it doesn't go on the backwards plan because we're not,
Specifically assessing them.
right?
Yeah, I think, what do you think?
Do we put another category, like skills to spiral? Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you're teaching it, then you should probably all agree on, here are the things we wanna do, so codify it by putting it on the paper, right?
and
Right,
maybe just
so it's
coordinate
not-
off as night, like,
Like, things we want to hit when we're talking about night, like the point of reading it.
Right, and then that will allow you to go, okay, next quarter when we've forgotten everything, you can go back and go, oh yeah, that was the 5 things that we wanted to do this
yeah,
quarter
that makes
again.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, like skills to continue building or something.
yeah, I like that, okay. So, you think I could just make a step 5 and just call it, or should I put it right in? Cause this, yeah, I don't like putting it all together, is that?
I think we can take a step.
Or should I just put
As
under
opposed to a step 5.
number 3? And we'll also review,
Right, maybe just make a gap and then
okay,
skills to review at night.
okay,
I mean, this
So the first
document
one's
is
like-
for us, right? So, essentially.
Right.
yeah.
So
We
we,
do what we want.
We're grown, do what we want.
I mean, as long as we understand how it's broken down and what needs to happen where, I think it's,
Right.
however you can sleep at night, actually.
You know, I got issues.
And then Tamara will restructure it so that she can, so that she can see it in her way.
Yeah.
An Oppenheim and
In a PDF. idea, and
Yeah.
we'll be good.
I'm sorry. Tegan, can I pick your brain a little bit more?
Of course.
I don't. You don't have a co-teacher secondary.
Maybe.
Okay, well, this is.
No, because Donna has her own class, yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so, I don't know where this grammar package.
They have the grammar packet,
Okay,
So
but
they'll
that's,
know what you're
they're only gonna get that for 10 minutes, right?
right?
And then, what's the rest of this?
So this is the grammar packet, so they'll probably be doing, they're doing page 58 and 59, or exercise 58 and 59 in this packet.
They
And there
know
should be-
about it. I was in her class like yesterday, and they have the packet, they know.
So this is supposed to take, it says 10 minutes, but it's supposed to take the whole period?
Mm-mm. No, it really is 10 minutes, you, like,
Then what happens after 10 minutes?
so then it's the test, yeah,
Oh, they're taking the same test as everybody else?
yes,
Okay.
yep.
They'll be okay. I have ELD, and they do it.
No, no, it's okay, I just want to be clear what they're supposed to do, okay?
No, no, you're good. You got this, you're an old pro.
Yes, I know, but I like to know. Thank
But, and
you.
this is why she's a pro. And I have my ducks in a row.
Okay.
So I definitely think theme.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, thank you. I think, I don't know, because I'm looking at complex characters. But I think Ellie goes through, he goes through a mood swing, if you will.
Right.
Like a Holocaust would do to you.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
Oh, that's so sad. So maybe it could just be analyzing how he's changing.
yeah, I think so. I think analyzing.
We already had that point of view one.
What about,
symbols,
Yeah.
that part on the train where she's like talking about the fire.
Which I was actually thinking is more of like word choice, imagery.
Yeah, there you go.
tone.
yeah, we haven't really talked about symbols this year significantly. I've
Yeah,
touched
they're
on
tough.
it here and
Right.
there. I mean, there's so much in the Casco Monfiato, but we haven't had time to go through all of it yet. Some of my kids have brought it up and we've talked about it a little, but
And then I think if we could just hammer home plot, I think we would be fine. So even if it's like as simple as an exit ticket of like, to get out, you need a plot map of what we read today. Which may or may not be difficult depending on like where you have to jump in, we're at the climax, but like, I think kids need to be able to tell what's going on.
Mhm.
absolutely, yeah.
Or have one that they're filling out as they go, like that's,
Which is what I did in Romeo and Juliet, and I like divided it across the 5 acts, and then like they had bullet points, so we could maybe
go back,
something like that.
and like if you miss a day, then you have that fallback too. Okay.
If they're filling it out as they read, what if a student thinks they've reached the climax and then they read more and they're like, oh no, this is the climax, oh no, this is the climax?
That's good.
How do you help them identify for sure without going, reading it and then going back and filling it
What
out?
if we break it into chapters? Like, if you take a plot map and you say like the exposition is chapters 1 through 5 or something like that. That way, you can't be over here because we're on chapter 4 and that's it.
Or
Chapter
maybe
out.
we really just have them take notes, right? You're just gonna bullet point what's happened in what we read today, right? And we make sure that they format it so that there's at least a 1-line space between entries. Then they snip it up at the end, and then they put it on the plot map.
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Yeah, like,
because then they still
yeah,
have
so
they still have the progression,
Uh-huh.
but then they can decide at the end.
Yeah,
Okay.
Where things fit.
that's good. You're a keeper, Megan. Okay, I think that's plenty. Plus, the normal activities of like, what it takes to understand a text.
Did Jen come by or not?
popular people today. Any? Okay, so now I really think we've milked it. For what it had.
No,
But I
you
also
still
think
think
it's
enough to
really-
accomplish next quarter?
Reasonable.
Yeah, me too.
I think so, because I think that I don't want to have to be pushed through these important base skills and.
I'm always ambitious until,
I just really hope we didn't say too much for argument.
well, and really,
And that was
like,
like,
persuasion/argument, like, you could, I mean, what are our rating types, really, right?
I know.
Narratives we covered, then we'll do informative, and we can use even the last semester to work on developing claims and arguments and whatever. Cause I
Oh,
agree,
yeah,
that's just
true.
gonna take longer, like,
It was.
Well, it's a big skill, and it's a big important skill.
and, but without nailing down quote and paraphrase, like, there's just no point, it's crazy easy.
So do we wanna attempt to put some things on the calendar?
Okay.
Joy!
Quarter to calendar.
Some widgets to move around later.
Okay.
Okay.
Are they gonna type the annotated bibliography? Look at the fear.
In our-
If it struck into heart of seizures.
In our
and think
dream
about
world,
technology.
right?
Maybe we're early enough where we could get in.
How hard,
Really.
yeah, and how hard is it to get laptops?
Yeah, I would say, how hard is it to go and get the set of laptops for?
Is it hard?
Well, it really depends, this whole calendar business, if you guys could decide on a date, then you would need to look at the assessment calendar and say, is
Right.
Suzie taking all the computers in the whole
Well,
building, or, and like.
I mean, are we doing more assessments after the first week?
Mm-mm.
We're just talking about quarter two?
Yes.
Then, no, you're not, actually.
Okay. So laptops might even, or Chromebooks might even be doable.
Mhm.
But like, the thing about this one is this annotated bibliography and the project are like together, don't you think? Do you think? Cause
Yeah,
it's
but I
gonna
think
take,
the annotated bibliography, like, the brilliance of that idea is like, we start night, we read this article, we introduce the concept of annotated bibliography, and they, like, write the first one, right? And so they're writing it as they go, and like, they could be keeping it in a Google Doc, or they could be writing it, if we can't get computers one week, great, then you gotta type 2 entries next week, or.
yeah. I would like for them to handwrite it anyways, because then maybe even in class we could be giving feedback.
So that it's.
For sure, hanging it good.
So taking something I just heard you say, or maybe imply, is that once a week we would need a laptop card.
Sure, yeah.
Is that like
Yeah,
one day of
once a week,
typing?
once every couple weeks, I don't, like,
Because the way I heard it was like, they could have it all, we could keep it on paper all
Building it.
quarter,
we could do
and
that,
then towards the end,
then
spend a
type it
couple
up.
days hammering it out.
That's totally possible too, yeah.
Maybe it depends on if you guys have good systems for students actually keeping their work.
I think actually all of
Yeah,
us,
that's not really a big problem.
Cool.
hopefully.
It seems probably more likely that you could get laptop carts for, 3 days in a row in one spot, rather than guaranteeing yourself.
And if we read
Every
it,
week.
you know what would be nice, yeah, is like, you don't have them the same 3 days I do, right? Like, you're gonna have them for a couple of days, then you're gonna pass them on to me, and then,
And we still
Plus,
have
then they're right here in the hall,
English
so if you have
part.
somebody who's lagging,
Yeah.
it's like, just send them over to my classroom during whatever hour.
Right, if we kind of could just
typing.
block out a week where we have, English 9 has them and we can
Yeah.
work it out amongst ourselves.
So what if, maybe that week before Thanksgiving break, if each of us,
How
Right.
long, in your experience, how long is 9 going to take to read?
Could take the whole time. I
um,
mean, it depends on how you,
yeah.
it's
I
like,
don't
stuff
know.
about reading it in,
Okay, I
reading
just-
it
I
in class.
I don't have a good grasp yet on how long that kind of thing takes.
I always play the recording,
Mhm.
so, cause they can say all the words correctly. I think, it's better to read more of it at a time than like stretch it over the quarter. So I usually aim for 6 weeks.
Okay,
So maybe hit the novel and the annotated bibliography, like just a lot of reading, right? We're reading together, and then you're reading the articles more independently, and we are like working on annotated bibliography, maybe 4 or 5 entries.
I bet you, we could even have kids like skip 4 lines at the top of a paper and write the objective summary, and that could lead into their annotated bibliography, or we could even come up with a template, and then we could send that home with them for homework, right, in an ideal world, in an imaginary land where kids do homework. But honestly, if we get most of it done together, right, because we could read the novel together, we could do partner group, and the only thing they would have to do at home is say that you understood.
Right, find a quote and explain how it connects to the author's point of view, plus that's an opportunity for dialogue the next day. Okay, then get with somebody and then explain, like, read on what you wrote about what's your quote and how does it connect to the author's main idea, and you all need to check each other and talk about, like, did they make it clear, like, does it
Yeah,
make sense
and if
what
we
they're
give
saying?
5 minutes before they go home, that's enough to get 2 sentences, so even if you didn't do homework, you have something to work with.
Right.
Then you talk with a partner, and then maybe 5 more minutes at the start of class. And
Or
so
in
now we can really
reverse,
get something done.
You read it in class, and we give you your 5 minutes to write the objective summary at the end. And then tomorrow, you need to come back and we're gonna work together to find, like, to identify the author's main, like, point, and then find a quote and a paraphrase that support the author, like, what are the key points that support the author's main point and how, so that they're doing that together. Because objective summary, like, is really just the understanding check. So,
Right.
yeah, you get those first couple sentences written, and you can scramble and get them written in the Daily Spark the next day if you need to. Yeah, I like that.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many of us? 4? So we would need 8 days, probably. I don't know that I want them to type it. Then I have to teach them about Word, you know, and how to do like hanging indents and formatting and all of that.
So if they're typing 5 of them, does 2 days give us enough to, like, teach those?
What if we
Teach those
create a video?
That's what I'm doing for my master's writing right now. In fact, I also have videos on paraphrase and quotes for you. Because it's also
Yeah,
my
and then
master's
kids
project.
can watch the video and try it themselves, and I don't have to say it 100 times.
Right, and you can go back as many times as you need to see, oh, how do you, because
With
instead
the
of
typing and stuff?
spacing across, right, here's your,
Hope you do that.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
Because
thinking.
I have a screen capture that we could literally just show them where it is, like.
Yeah, so the 13th through the 24th is what I'm thinking, because that would give us
Yeah.
8 days. Okay. So, will someone put it in? And then how about this project thing from the, how many days will we need for that? A lot for presentation, like 2 for presentations, but that should hopefully go really well.
And if we're like, yeah, then we should probably schedule the time to really like, whatever the project is, what are the check-in points, right? If you're gonna do this project, then by this time, you would need these things.
So
You need
maybe
to
right
design
after
or
I think, I think we
Thanksgiving.
introduce it right after Thanksgiving, because that
Mhm.
gives them plenty of notice, plenty of time for those that, after a week, are like, what do we do?
Yeah, and we could add an assignment calendar and everything.
Yeah, yeah, I think that gives us plenty of time to make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing, make sure that we can have time to actually check it.
And then hopefully we'll just break it down into very like objective style. Like by this day, you should have this done.
Right.
And very specific.
Right.
It's stressful.
Mhm.
So.
Hi.
Hi.
Super quick question for you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
This
there,
is a popular room.
Will someone put that in?
did you, was there after school
Attach
stories
them
yesterday?
to a
Do you have a
platter.
sign-in sheet or anything?
Don't worry, I'm still working on that.
Because there's the day.
Distracted,
There's
not
the
written down.
after school tutoring, there's
The
the-
computer.
The slicing, just
Oh.
apart, you know, from 10 minutes ago.
I saw you last
Okay,
night.
so if we
That's when I
introduce the day
said
after
that's the last
Thanksgiving
day.
break,
And so y'all kind of
and
shoot
then
that.
should I say the last?
I don't leave
Do we
until they're all
have
done.
school on the 18th?
You let them, there were no students.
Is that Friday?
Uh-huh.
No.
Okay, so 15, 16, 17 for presentations? If you have a smaller class, we
But,
could probably,
and I would, I'll walk in there and say, you're lying, if you want me to.
there's probably some.
I'm gonna show that, the signage.
Okay.
That's all.
Mhm. Okay. Now let's hope Tamara doesn't come back and throw her into everything.
Well, I
I'm
think
just
she'll be
kidding.
on board with the
The
project
project,
stuff.
yeah,
I
this is
do
what
too.
she's been advocating
Right, because
for,
it's what we talked about.
yeah.
We also talked about, at that project, at that PD, one of the social studies teachers down the hall, and that great social studies teachers was in it with us, and they're talking about some things that kind of coordinate, so it maybe wouldn't hurt to have a conversation at least, like, hey, this is what we're focusing on this semester, any support that you guys have, because I think some of the things they're working on can kind of, in the ninth grade geography classes, can kind of support that at the minimum, you know.
Yeah,
So it probably wouldn't hurt to try and coordinate a conversation.
well, and last year we met and tried to do that anyway, like tried to make sure that we were talking about
Right.
some of the, like at least bringing up
I
the
mean,
other
Yeah.
subjects thing in class.
I think that that might be beneficial, because, and we were at William Smith and they have like this awesome cross curriculum, everything, because every kid has the same.
I know, they're thinking of the genocide with the like
Yeah.
art project,
Yeah,
making the
they're
bones
doing
for
it
the
a
million.
semester-long project on infectious diseases that's running through every course, like every subject, and like,
Does Brent still have the English computer?
I think he might.
Who do I reserve computers through? Maybe the new guy, the new tech guy?
I would email him
Whose
first.
name is Randy?
Randy, but is that his name?
Randy Herndon,
Who?
Randy Herndon.
Yeah, it is.
Herndon, Herndon.
I'm
Like,
Let me know if there's any problems with
Okay,
it.
for sure.
I was paranoid about not checking the right answer, but maybe if you flip through them, just make sure that I selected the right
Okay.
answer, I like that I switched it. And
And then are those Chromebooks the district's? Like, do we get them from the district or do we own them?
see, I was,
That's a really good
I
question.
was
I'm not
thinking-
clear about anymore.
okay.
Because they're easy, they hold a lot of
Mr. Garcia
power.
came to our new teacher meeting and talked about reserving, and I thought he said, I think on that form that he showed us about reserving computer labs, there was a spot for reserving a laptop card as well.
He does have a card.
Is that different than the other Chromebook, than the
Yes.
Chromebooks? Okay.
All right. Amy, would you help us out and find us some computers?
I'm on the case. How many, what's your biggest class? So like I need to know if I need 2 carts or 1 cart.
32.
32 is your biggest class.
Well, that's mine.
You're all smaller.
I would be
34.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll get, see if I
33.
can get about 36. And what's the dates that you're looking at wanting these?
November 13th through the 24th. And we'll only need 2 at a time.
Right, not all of us need them all at once, that's spread out.
Wait, I'm gonna say that back to you. This PLT needs them from the 13th through the 24th, but I only need to get 1 set because you guys are gonna wheel them around. Got it.
Yeah, 1 set of 36.
Okay, so I put introduce the project, and then I just put the last 3 days of the quarter as presentation days. Anything else that we should put on this calendar for that?
No.
I think, once we get closer, we can set the specific
Yeah.
check-ins.
So then at our next meeting, maybe we can like decide what's going up first. Like, what are we teaching first?
Yeah.
And like, how are we gonna do it? Because I'm telling you, I will need help.
Okay, and I think, also at that project-based thing, he gave us a website that I'll have to look it up, I wrote it down somewhere, but he said it was like the best for pulling articles and resources by topic, like nonfiction text, so I'll find it, because he acted like it would be really, really good for what we're doing.
Cool.
But mine is
was, so that's kind of useless right now.
Okay.
We are good.